It's so nice to be here. Many of you might not know this, but not too long ago, I was a high school student, just like most of you here. In fact, I went to the same high school, stood on the same stage, and did multiple musical performances. And this was the same stage where I actually stood and built up the courage to kiss my high school crush. Right here on the spot, actually. But it wasn't just that this was a very meaningful stage for me, but in reality, this is where I learned about mentorship. Because at the end of the day, we might be thinking, wait, is this guy about to give a TEDx talk on how to find true love? Are we finally about to get a step-by-step mentorship on how to get out of the friend zone? And to that, I say, no. I'm going to leave you all to learn from your mistakes and suffer just like I did. Because there's no true hack to finding your special someone, but there is a hack to winning at life and building confidence, and that's through mentorship. Yes, the same word that college applications seem to all be looking for. That school speakers seem to announce opportunities to mentor this person, to mentor that person, to mentor yourself. Yes, mentor yourself into becoming a mentor. And as silly as that sounds, it's also true, because it's the same word that also makes us feel like we're not doing enough in life to be the leaders that society expects us to be. But here's the thing. I'm here to break that down. Mentorship doesn't need to be a specific title or a section in your college application. Mentorship is much more powerful than that, and much more human. Mentorship is just about being that person, someone that people feel comfortable talking to. Sounds easy, right? Well, it's exactly that easy to get started. And today I'm going to be sharing some big stories of the meaningful impact you can have by starting mentorship. But before I get into that, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Jatin. I'm a medical student, and I did my Bachelor's of Science and my MBA through the University of Saskatchewan. I also run Instagram pages that has a total following of over 500,000 followers. And most recently, I've started our startup that helps healthcare practitioners increase their reach online. But while I stood in these positions, I wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for mentorship. And while I could talk about the big moments that I've had, I'd rather focus on the small, true moments that helped me become a mentor for other people. Because the thing about mentorship is I actually learned it from a very interesting person. And that person wasn't a CEO or a professor or a wise old guru, but that person was always there. When I needed fashion advice on, hey, does this shirt make me look like a freshman? Or when I needed help crafting that perfect text message on asking, how you doing, without coming off as cringe. Can you guess who this person was? It was my older sister. Well, she didn't have a choice in the matter, but she was always there. And what was interesting was that she was also figuring out life herself, because she was in high school too. And that's what made it work. Because the secret about mentorship is that you just have to be there to support the person. And that was the first lesson I learned. So, okay, you just have to be supportive. Now, the second lesson I learned was the first time I got a mentee. And to be honest, just like last time, this person also didn't have much say in the matter. I present to you my younger sister, Divya, and she's actually here in the crowd today. She was born when I was in grade 10, and although I thought of being in the same position as most of you today, I'm thinking that I can't be a mentor, but then I realized mentorship is just about knowing a little bit more than the next person. And I figured, you know what, I know a thing or two more than this little baby here. So, naturally, I started to coach her. And what I didn't realize was that this was going to be a very big blessing. Because while I was mentoring this person, she actually made me very, very aware of how to become better. She made me a better problem solver, probably by causing problems in the first place. But it was a two-way relationship, and that was very powerful. That helped me build confidence at a time I most needed it, and helps me become a better decision maker. So mentorship was about making better decisions, becoming better, and building confidence. Okay. Now that I learned about these lessons, it was time for me to give back to society and actually do real mentorship. That was when I decided to I was in university and I decided to come back to the same high school to coach the badminton team. And that's when I realized that the biggest hurdle for students wasn't their talent, it was their equipment. I noticed this immediately because I had been in the same position before. I remember thinking back to trying out for the basketball team in shoes that were full size too small. I didn't just end up with toes that were bleeding, but I ended up with shattered confidence. I guess balling on a budget wasn't meant to be taken so literally. And now while coaching, I saw students slipping repeatedly on court. His shoes were too worn and offered no grip. Nearby, a doubles team that had rackets that did not do justice to their skills. Initially, I thought coaching was all about game tips and strategic drills, but in that moment, I realized that the most meaningful thing that I could do was simpler than that. I gave that student my racket, and I gave that student my shoes, and gave that doubles team my rackets. I'll never forget the surprise on their face that slowly turned into pure gratitude. It wasn't just their performance that improved, it was their confidence, with their smiles returning, realizing someone saw their struggle. That's when the most important lesson about mentorship hit me. Mentorship isn't about the role, it's about the action, even if it was a small one. I never expected anything in return, but remember these students because they come back later on in the story. Fast forward to today, mentorship for me looks a little different. With my medical school pages, there was 1 month where there was a reach of over 30 million people through one page. Now that's max aura farming. I'm kidding. In reality, I run these pages to help people become more aware about their healthcare decisions. Because the internet is full of misinformation, if I can help even a few people understand their bodies better, trust healthcare more, or avoid harmful trends, that's mentorship. Now, through my startup, I'm helping healthcare professionals share better advice with the world. Because one day, I want to be one of those people. I'm not a doctor yet, but that shouldn't stop me from helping others. Once again, I learned the same lesson. Rather than seeking roles, we should start with actions, and we'll naturally find ourselves in leadership positions. But I was about to be tested on whether I really knew about the power of mentorship. And that's when I couldn't be a mentor again. A few years ago, chronic lower back pain significantly impacted my life. It wasn't just a temporary discomfort. This was different. This lingered, was persistent, and was draining. I had many afternoons tired from my morning responsibilities, wanting to rest, but then sitting down in pain, and wondering to myself, how am I going to continue on with life with this? How am I going to help others? It wasn't just about missing classes or gym sessions, but it was also about stepping away from being that person others could rely on. And that shift made me reconsider my sense of purpose. It was more than physical pain. It was the emotional toll of feeling useless. Disconnected from the one thing that had gave me purpose in life, mentorship. But I knew my life experience had taught me differently. I knew mentorship was all about taking action, however small it may be. This past winter, a friend of mine was struggling. You know how Saskatchewan winters are, cold, dark, and somehow always making you question your parents' life choices. But for my friend, it was worse than that. He was stuck, not even getting out of bed. I didn't have a grand speech to give to him, so I did something simple. I decided to call him every single morning, not for an hour-long chat, but a quick, yo, get up. Some days he talked, some days he just grunted, but every single day that phone rang. I thought I was helping him, but I realized he was helping me too. Because if I was telling him to start his day, that meant I had to start mine too. And now I had built an accountability system. On New Year's, he texted me, "Grateful to have you as a friend, always teaching me new things and making this my best winter yet." Even while juggling chronic pain, that text reminded me I wasn't as powerless as I thought I was. Mentorship had given me purpose when I had lost my own. And remember those students that I taught badminton? Well, guess what? While I was struggling with school due to my chronic pain, they were showing up again in my life. Interestingly enough, they were also in medical school, but ahead of me because of the time I had to take away. They taught me how to read ECGs, that screen showing a patient's heart rhythms, and when I couldn't keep up with what they were teaching me, they didn't push. They just sat beside me, offering me what I needed most at that time, their presence. My mentorship seemed to have gone from big acts to small ones, and my mentees had gone from these small moments to literally helping me save lives. That's the power of mentorship. Small or big, they make us powerful human beings. So at the end of the day, mentorship doesn't have to be formal. Throw that old definition out the window. And if you've ever felt like you're not qualified to be a mentor, ask yourself, have I ever helped a friend when they reached out in need of help? Because if so, congratulations, you've already been a mentor, and that's powerful. And the best part, you'll continue to be a mentor. Some days it'll be leading a team, other days it'll be giving your shoes to someone who needs it more, and some days it'll just be calling a friend that might need your support. Mentorship isn't about doing the big things, it's about doing the small things, leading to big things, and that's the cheat code. So today, don't wait for the perfect moment to start mentoring, take action. And I hope that action leads you to live a better life than you could have ever imagined for yourself. Because you never know. That mentorship might be that light of hope for someone else. And sometimes, even that light of hope for yourself. Thank you.